low flow period that basically hurts its quality as salmon and trout habitat. And so could we create an effluent clean enough that actually added water, good water, to that creek? And my understanding, that's where we are right now, is a proposal that would basically put, treated effluent into the creek, high enough quality that it would meet basically fisheries quality. I mean, that's sort of a scary thought, and it's an exciting thought. If we can meet that test, that would be, I think, setting a very high bar regarding our waste disposal. Scary thought because, boy, you better look good. You don't want, you've got to backup plans to make sure that that effluent really does the job, is at the quality you want one of the small creeks that has important habitat. So Brian, am I on mark on that statement? James?
Where is council at currently with greenhouse gas emissions, and how does that dovetail into the 4 priority projects as well as the OCP update? And just as a suggestion to that, I think trail building really would go a long way to greenhouse gas emissions controls, and I would really like to see that as a priority project as well, rather than just sort of lip service. So the question is really, are we doing lip service to greenhouse gas reductions, or is that really going to be thought about as we review proposals like Cape Roger Curtis and look at these capital projects?
Well, one answer to that question is that the provincial government is requiring us by 2010 to have, I think it's called a greenhouse gas management strategy or plan in our OCP. Has to be there. So that's one level. So that has to be built into our OCP update. A second thing is that we signed on a climate change action charter agreement with the province. And we committed to building energy efficient communities. I mean, that's an outcome and we also committed to being, as a municipal operation, carbon neutral by 2012. And the staff person responsible for that agenda is Christy Cannon. So what have we done on that? Some things. I mean, you look at our little smart card that is a municipal vehicle that goes around. Is that just sort of a little piece of fluff on the outside? Hopefully not. Hopefully that represents sort of the beginning of an enterprise to evaluate and move. We do know that we will have to pay penalties if we don't meet sort of those objectives, because we will have to buy credits and essentially pay someone else to achieve offsets that we don't achieve here. So it's going to cost the municipality something, whether it does it themselves or we basically don't meet that carbon neutral targets and have to buy credits. So those are sort of two things. Have we as a council discussed that yet and set it as a priority? No. It is embedded though in required outcomes of the OCP, which we are moving forward with as a first priority. Does that answer your question?
Partially. How does it dovetail into the capital projects? Has there been thought of dovetailing the notion of reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the capital projects? Like, these are things you're doing today or in the next couple of years that will have an impact. So if you're really serious about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, it really should be thought of up front versus tagged on as a tag along with sustainability quite often.
So just on that point, we will be developing terms of reference for this infrastructure committee. I think what you're encouraging us to do is make sure that there are sort of green guidelines and commitments to sort of outcomes regarding greenhouse gas reductions that are embedded in the infrastructures we choose. One of the good news on that is that, I'm guessing, I know at the provincial level, you don't get money for infrastructure from the province today if you can't demonstrate you're sort of leading edge green technology, whatever it is, sort of water delivery, sewer, treatment, etc. So the good news is the province is there and is really providing a leadership role. I'm not sure what criteria are being embedded in these federal programs, but many of them will be matching grant proposals with the province. So we need to make sure we're meeting sort of the same targets and commitments that the province is. That's at least a goal, and I think that should be part of the terms of reference. Just a second, I just wanted to, Barbara, you had a question. I just wanted to get, first of all, people who haven't spoken first. There's a hand here, yeah, and Peter, and Ian. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back to you. Okay, great. Yes.
That's me. My name is Edna Thompson, and I'm wanting to know if you're saying that suggestions and looking at alternative decisions that can be made about various projects. So I'm hoping that the sewer line, where they're going to be decided to be expanded, if looking at alternatives to where those pipes can actually go is something that can be put forward to your I think it will turn development wherever
where the sewers go. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the intention of the sewer is to service development. The question is which development, you know, and when, and what are the priorities that the sort of spoken to here. But just to reiterate a point that, you know, this is yet to be dealt with by the infrastructure committee and yet to have a proposal developed. But the first simple thinking that has been going on is that the Miller Road right-of-way is the most likely sort of sewer placement line. There may be alternatives to that, but that's at least on the table right now as sort of.
so would you have other alternatives?
That will be the job of the infrastructure committee and the proposal development. And yes. Peter and then Ian, yes.
Peter Drake. I remember one of the earlier town hall meetings that came up with a great list of all the things that were in process and what was happening to sort of prove that something was happening. And then listening now to all the different projects and different things that people are talking about, makes you realize that in your budget there was actually no increase in staff, as I understand it. So there's no
increase in staff.
Yeah, so there's no increase in staff time. We're not reducing projects, we seem to be increasing projects. I believe one of the criticisms of the previous council has been the difficulty of getting staff to respond as you came up with a new priority. How are you going to address that? Because you haven't addressed it in terms of increasing staff. I'm very happy about that, because that would increase my taxes. But how are you going to address that? Because there are a lot of priority items out there. And you can't have them all as priority. You've got the OCP. And you said the OCP is going to come before Cape Roger Curtis. Yet you've just been presented with a deadline by the developers of June the 1st. How is that going to be addressed as a priority?
Well, just to be clear, on that particular issue of the OCP and Cape Roger Curtis, what I intended to say, if I miscommunicated, was that we wanted to launch the OCP with some clarity, with a chair, with a budget, with commitment by staff that they had the time to service it. So those things, and with basically a target plan. So that is what we wanted to do to get that OCP up and OCP update running. Cape Roger Curtis, we will deal with, yet to deal with, but that's a March 2nd discussion. So how those two fit together yet to be sort of considered and decided. Jumping back from that sort of particular issue to the bigger issue, you're raising a very, very important point. And you know, what is staff capacity? And Brian and I were just talking about this with staff yesterday or the day before, and there's essentially underway right now a work plan review. And one of the realities is that staff are very, very stretched. We're down one person, we don't have basically a director of engineering position filled right now. So Public Works personnel, they're darn good, but they're really stretched. And we're seeing strains. And we're seeing strains in the organization right across the board in terms of what staff, what community expectations are, what council expectations are, and what staff have the capacity to deliver. So we're recognizing we have an issue here. We are expecting later in March, basically a report back from staff that is basically a review of their work